using Teams.
Ada?
Hello?
Dengar tak, Miss?
Can you hear me clearly?
Kan.
Oh, can, but macam soft sangat pula dah.
Dia punya suara dengar tak?
Ni dengar. Okay.
Dekatkan laptop lah. Jauh dia tak dengar.
Okay. Alright. So should be alright. Sekarang kan? Okay. Let me try I punya slide. I share
Stop sharing
slide
first.
here. Nampak ke slide?
Nampak? Clear? Cuba movekan apa dia punya ni. Alright, okay.
Dah. Alright.
Miss Zena pun dah masuk dah.
Okay, so I share dulu.
Hello.
Hello, hi.
Hai. Kita tunggu nanti orang ramai masuk dulu ke macam mana?
Boleh terpulang kepada Miss Zena dengan Miss Sharmini.
Oh, okey. Saya pakai phone hari ini sebab laptop saya ada problem sikit. Saya tak boleh nampak ada berapa orang lah. Kejap I tekan-tekan tengok.
Sekarang baru ada 4 orang.
Oh, okey. Kita tunggu. Okey.
Tunggu, tak cukup ni. Sikit lagi. Okay, let me get my slide.
And then macam biasa lah kita tunggu sampai pukul 9-10 macam tu lah.
Okey, boleh.
Okay.
Dan kita tunggu dulu ya.
Alright. Kira nanti I just di platform dekat Miss Sharmini dengan Miss Zena je lah. Okay.
Okey, boleh.
Okay,
Alright. Thank you.
Zena, can you hear me? Boleh dengar tak?
Boleh, boleh.
Okay. The presentation view that you have, what do you see? Do you see a presentation slide ke? You nampak macam, yeah. What do you see in the
See full screen lah. Your
full
slide.
screen kan? Full screen. It's not the presentation view for presenter kan? Like I can see next slide. It's not that, right?
No, it's full screen.
Okay. Because yeah, I was a bit worried. Yep.
You're using your laptop
Yeah. Laptop.
Oh, should be alright lah.
Because when you put in presentation mode, the presenter view is slightly different lah. That's why.
Yeah. I think Teams is something like that. It's not like Zoom is very clear. You can see your full screen.
Yep. Okay, are we waiting some more or are we starting?
Wait, let's see.
Looks like there are 23 people.
20 over people lah. You want to start also can. Because some people, they used to come in later one.
Okay, not bad. 24 now. Okay, if we want to start, we can start.
Okay. We start lah because the in front part is I introduce you only, so it's okay if they miss out.
Okay.
The knowledge that you want to share. Okay, admin kita start dulu admin. Admin ada ke?
Boleh.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, admin is very soft. Admin we cannot hear.
Dengar tak?
Boleh ya?
Okay, boleh.
Okay. Good afternoon. Bukan afternoon. Good evening semua. Okay, dah pukul 9 dah. Okay, Assalamualaikum semua. Thank you for joining hari ni. Sebab hari ni siapa datang dia memang untung. I tell you betul-betul. Sebab hari ni speaker Miss Sharmini ya. Dia memang dah experience more than 25 years, 24 years of the experience lah in the industry ya. Last time I know her in M-Shores, dia kerja dengan Ansel, I ingat. Sekarang hari tu dia share in the group like she already working, change the work to Heineken. So memang is the industry that company yang brand besar juga. So definitely dia apa yang dia ada, pengalaman yang dia ada mesti much more than what we have, and we can learn one or two things or even more from her lah. So hari ini dia akan share dengan kita orang macam mana kita nak manage risk, manage risiko like a pro. So apa beza dia HIRARC lah, JSA ialah Job Safety Analysis lah, dan PTW Permit to Work. So siapa-siapa yang pernah kerja di industri memang you always hear these three things lah, these three terms. So macam mana kita nak bezakan tiga-tiga ni, apa fungsi dia, okay, sebagai seseorang safety practitioner, mesti kita kena tahu this part. So hari ini Sharmini akan share with us lah all about these three things. So I pass to Miss Sharmini. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Zaina. Thank you for the introduction as well. So today kita campur bahasa sikit lah. Okay. Tapi slide dalam bahasa Inggeris. So why today we selected this topic? Kenapa topik ni macam dah HIRARC, JSA, permit work. These are things yang kita sebagai safety ni dah dengar, dah muak dan dah macam, oh, you know this very well. So why is a special topic is, from my experience, I have seen that HIRARC, JSA, permit to work disalah guna. That means we use it for the wrong purposes, ataupun kita guna sebab it's a requirement, ataupun kita kata because company say kena buat permit, kita buat permit, company say or DOSH say buat HIRARC, kita buat HIRARC. But it's very little I have seen these documents is used to its intended purpose. kenapa ada HIRARC ni, kenapa ada JSA ni, kenapa ada permit to work, dan macam mana kita lessen all the problems, because these are the 3 documents yang selalu kita pening kepala, selalu ada audit finding, lepas tu bila suruh orang buat, kita jenuh review. These are all the issues that we always have. So that is why I selected the topic. So hari ni kita bukan nak ajar orang yang dah expert untuk buat HIRARC, JSA dan permit to work. So we are all experts in this, tapi kita nak review why and how we can do this effectively. Buat kerja senang sikit. So before I move on, just a little bit of introduction. Okay, so that's my full name. If you want to find me in LinkedIn, that's how you find me. Yes, I've been here about 25 years in manufacturing. So when I speak about manufacturing, maksudnya yang I tak ada experience langsung, construction. So maybe I can have a show of hand. How many people here actually from construction? Ada? Anyone? Maybe can show some reaction ke? Okay, so the rest dari mana? Manufacturing, anyone? Okay, so ada juga few. Lepas tu yang tak bagi reaction ni datangnya dari mana? Mungkin boleh, okay, oil and gas. Okay, so oil and gas, they have their own risk assessment system which is more complicated. Any other industry? Construction, okay, all right. So I think HIRARC, JSA permit to work, the construction paling headache. It's always headache. Highway industry, very interesting one, right? Also same thing lah, memang headache nak buat kerja ni. So hari ni punya discussion, we are talking about all the headaches and how we can effectively reduce it, okay? So this is me in a short thing. I'm passionate about humanizing safety. So safety is, for me, you put the human in the middle and build the safety around it. So all the safety systems that I build is always like that. Saya punya approach is as a human in the center. You hold on, yes? Done. All right. So we are safety people and we live in a very stressful environment, right? Kita biasanya like meat in a sandwich tau. We are always sandwiched in between our workers and management, and it's a very stressful role. So in order to come out for it, we need to have something for ourselves. So this is what I do for myself. I seek a lot of inspiration. Kalau betul-betul nak stress release, I dance, right? And I do a lot of creative work in the kitchen, and I like to cook a lot. And when I really want to calm myself down, I do painting, drawings, and those kind of things. So that is my outlet as a person. And yes, I have one very beautiful daughter. I'm actually lucky to have her. It's not me, it's not she's lucky to have me, but I'm more lucky to have her. She's a wonderful daughter. She grew up really beautifully. So that's a short introduction about myself. So what are we going to do today? My pointer is not working. Interesting. Okay, what are we going to do today is there are different type of risk assessment. We are only going to focus on 3, and we use these to suit the purpose. And then how do we effectively use each risk assessment methods? So this is something that we can take away and see that, okay, what are we doing today with our risk assessment processes, and what can we do better? How can we make it less documentation and more value adding? So of course, there are many types of risk assessment. So just for us to have an overview of what we are familiar with, what are the things that you always use? Maybe you can type in the chat and let us know what are the usual risk assessments tools that you use. Can we have it on the chat box? We give a few moments. I also see there are someone from the education industry. That's very, very interesting. And I'm sure she's also doing something on, they call it OSH in schools and things like that. I think there are some focus about health and safety in the education industry as well. So the chat box is empty. So what are the usual tools of, yes, so HIRARC bow tie, that's one of my favorites. There's something else different there. What does the E stands for? Effective risk control? If someone can, evaluation, okay, thank you. 5Y, 5Y is root cause analysis, but yeah, interesting. Any others? Okay, right. So these are some of the common ones that I have used as risk assessment. There are many more than these. There are what ifs lah. There are someone mentioned bow ties, yeah. And FMEA is one of the common ones that we use as well. And each one of these risk assessment has its own purposes. So we are going to focus on JSA, HIRARC, and Safe Work Permit, but let me run through what does purpose mean. For example, FMEA, where do we use this? The answer is in the title itself, failure mode effects analysis. So, bila kita tengok, what are we assessing? Apa yang kita tengok? Kita tengok how these things can fail, for example. So I look at it, what are the failure modes? So when I want to know how this thing is going to fail, I use FMEA. I tak pergi buat HIRARC. I don't use this tool because I use FMEA to know how it's going to fail. And kalau dia fail, what is the impact? And bila impact is, the higher the impact, the more detrimental it is, then kita punya layer of protection becomes more. Kita punya redundancy of protection also become more. So kita punya cara kita control that failure mode becomes different. So setiap satu risk assessment tool ada dia punya tugas, ada dia punya function. Dan kita tak boleh campur aduk. Then we are not getting the value from that tool. Kita masa-masa je duduk buat. And now we move on to our focus. So we focus on JSA, HIRARC, and Safe Work Permit today. Currently, can someone, maybe I can hear someone's voice. What is the current process you use in creating HIRARC? Just like, okay, masa nak buat HIRARC, this is what I do. Can someone share? Ataupun nak type pun boleh. But it's nice to hear someone's voice instead of me talking to a screen. Anyone would like to share?
Boleh buka mic terus, Pravin.
Boleh.
Okay,
Okay,
buka
Pravin,
mic.
go ahead. Yes, a hero today.
Sorry, who? Me, myself, or? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Can you?
Yes, Pravin.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Good evening, Miss. Okay, so I think. Boleh dengar ke?
Boleh. You're quite clear, very clear.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, when we do the HIRARC, right? So the first thing is like we will list down the activities. So based on the because it depends because where we are putting that. For example, a process. So we will split that into a specific high-level activity, and each activity we will further break down to the each we will call steps. Okay, so each steps, then that's the first action. Then after for each steps, we will find the hazards that could possible. We will identify the exits for each steps, and then basically after we identify the exits, so we will see what are the control mechanism that is already being implemented, and then based on the control mechanism which is already exists, so we will find what is the what they call the consequences and also the risk analysis. That means like we will find how, we will find that risk. So based on the risk, whether it's high or low, if it's high, it's not acceptable, and then we will add on the control mechanism to get a lower and acceptable level of risk. And then we will have a kind of like also the action party, and then the status of that control mechanism is being implemented, and what's the what do you call whether it's been effective, and is there any failure. So that's how we do that.
So I have a question. Who do you talk to?
Okay, we will talk to multiple discipline engineers, or even the technicians, because whoever involved in the activity, including the outside. We also involve the outside party, because sometimes they can give idea which we never could not able to see, right? So sometimes we also include that. So even like admin, HR, we will also like we will include them as well.
Okay. So what, in your experience, what's the level of cooperation? Do they actually believe in doing this HIRARC process, or they do it because you ask them to do it?
Okay, I mean, you see, it's a mix up, because but basically in the operation side, I think they do believe this is the importance, because that's what we are, because it's basically the culture, and also goes back to the top management's commitment. So, and once we have the awareness towards everyone, the importance of having this safety, and then definitely that's why we're getting much cooperation from the operation team. But sometimes where the HR or finance, so maybe it could be not much just because they need to it's more on their duties lah, rather than their own initiative to what you call or more on their actual intention to keep the HSC KPI. Yeah, it's just because they need to complete their duty, that's all.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's move on, right? Apparently my pointer is very stubborn today. Okay, so levels of risk assessment. We have the low levels that we are very used to, those take 5 checklists. Some people call it quick risk predictions. Some people call it last minute risk assessment or in situ risk assessments. So these are very quick ones that just before I start the work, I just look around, I see if there's anything unsafe, I correct it and I move on. So today we'll be focusing on the medium level, which is the risk matrices, the HIRARC, the JSA, and so on. So this is best for moderate risk jobs. So this is your day-to-day jobs. This is something interesting. When you do a HIRARC, you can have your action to expand your risk assessment into a bow tie, expand my risk assessment into an emergency response procedure, expand my risk assessment and say, for this, we need to do an extended noise risk assessment, for example. So your actions doesn't necessarily bring the risk level down. It could also be extending it to a further risk assessment. And then we manage it through that risk assessment process rather than managing it in the HIRARC. So this is something we really, really need to do. Don't manage everything in the HIRARC. There was one time we had an audit, and then I had an auditor who wants to do, and this one you will face if you are in an MNC, where they ask you to do risk assessment on exposure to women who are pregnant and breastfeeding. So then they go sebo put into the HIRARC, but that is not the right tool to do a medical an exposure due to a medical condition, right? So this risk assessment must be done by the OSH based on that woman's work. And then he puts in recommendation and he said, So that is a case by case risk assessment. It is not take that and put in the HIRARC and close the audit finding. So I reversed that because I can reverse the audit finding. So I reversed it and I said, this is not correct. Come up with a procedure and say, this is my procedure to manage risks and exposure, risks from exposure to pregnant and breastfeeding women. And then you say, I send it to the doctor will come, he'll come in and give me a review, and that's how I'm going to manage it. And that's it. Close the audit finding. So we must know where we are going to use the tool for what. Then we have the third one, which we call high level. These are complex data driven, which means these got numbers. This one, without numbers, we don't look into it because it's really, really quantitative. We need to do numbers in the medium level. For example, if you say, oh, this is going to lead to MSD, how sure are you? We need to know. So we don't straight away say that the consequences is MSD. We need to be very sure that the consequences is MSD. So what we do, our action is to do an ergonomic risk assessment and then manage this through the ergonomic risk assessment process. We don't have to manage everything into the HIRARC, for example. However, when you do high level, numbers are the determinant. It has to be there with all those numbers. So let's look at each one. So first one, HIRARC. You can challenge me if you don't agree, okay? So the purpose, and this is something that I have very rare to see it has been used as a risk reduction tool. HIRARC is a high-level document. It tells me that what are my top 10 risks in my site? What are the top 10 risks in my location? So we need to design the HIRARC form. We need to design how we look into the form so that it serves the purpose. It is a risk reduction tool. How many of us actually ask our contractor to do HIRARC and then we review their HIRARC like we are the experts? We do that. So this is not the right tool for the contractor. The contractor has to have a HIRARC for his company, but not a HIRARC for every single job that he does. That has to be managed through JSA or method statement. Where does he get the input for the method statement and where does he get the input for the JSA? His company HIRARC document. And we should not be the one reviewing their HIRARC, which we always do. We do not have management control over the company's HIRARC. That we must be very clear. HIRARC is a company document, not a job document, not a task document, not a work document. So why do we use it? We use it to reduce risks. That means now, after I have done the risk assessment for all the 20, 30 jobs, 50 jobs that I have, then I pick my top 10 high risk. I have an action plan to reduce this risk, and I go through that effectiveness check, and I go through all the controls, I close all the gaps that I find. And then I come back again, I reduce another 10, I reduce another 10, I reduce another 10. So this is a continuing risk reduction tool, and it is a site level document. How many of us actually have our HIRARC? Think about these questions that I asked, that it goes department by department. And you don't have one complete overview for your own site. And this is very common practice. When you do that as management, so we talked about management commitment, as management, I would not have view that in this site, what is my top 10? Then you say, then you need to present in this department, this is the top 3, in this department, this is the top 3, in this department, this is the top 3, and these are the actions we are putting in. This is the budget we need. So HIRARC is used as a management risk reduction tool. It's not for the ground level people. But we need to involve them in because we need information from them, right? But it is used by management to manage the risk, to provide the resources required. That should be the outcome of an HIRARC. As a company, as management, what we want to do. So when to use to ascertain site level risks, not the task, not the job, and not definitely contractor work. When not to use, we use it as you submit HIRARC, then based on the HIRARC, I issue permit. This is the wrong place to use HIRARC because HIRARC is a business management tool for safety. And we use HIRARC to analyze task-specific risks. You know what happens when you do this? What will happen is, unless all the risks are in green color, you cannot proceed. So you don't allow any risks that are red. And we have this kind of rules. And when I issue permit, all the risks has to be green. No way. It has to be alarm, not green. So these are how I have seen from my experiences how the HIRARC has been misused and how the risk assessment matrix has been misused. Now, you also have something we call something that I have seen very rare as well, but this is very value added. This is what we call a non-linear matrix. So when you talk about a non-linear matrix, this is still a 5 by 5, but if you check those numbers that are there, so these numbers, right? Can you see that none of the numbers are the same? So this is something I discovered. It is from another company, and I found that this makes a lot of sense. Why these numbers are different? Because we don't want something that is negligible and highly likely becomes 5. So it becomes 11 because the 1 times 5 becomes 5. No. Then you have another one that is highly unlikely and catastrophic is also 5. So this non-linear risk matrix actually gives you a better picture of what is high, medium, and low. And of course, I would prefer, this is my preference, I would prefer to have 4 levels rather than 3. Because if you do enough risk assessment, you will know that you'll have a lot of things stuck in the yellow. So now how do you prioritize your yellow? You split it into amber and yellow. It's a much more micro, granular list matrix. So this is something I'm sharing. You can use this non-linear matrix as well. It is much more clearer, and when you do your risk prioritization, that means when you sort your risk, you would have a better segregation, because then you need to decide, this also 5, this also 5, which one I'm going to do now? This also 25, this also 25, which one am I going to do now? This, you would have a better segregation of your top 10, top 5, top 3 that you want to work with. So this is a sharing. I've used this and I found that this helps a lot in doing the risk prioritization on a year-to-year basis. And it really, really shows. It really helps you to really segregate and hone in on the risks that you want to work on. So I was speaking a lot about risk reduction process. So as Praveen has shared with us, you determine the actions to reduce risk. Do we want to do a step down risk reduction? Or do we actually look at, oh, it's at 25 and reduce to 5? So why we call it as a continuous risk reduction process is because when we are in safety, we cannot be only thinking about safety. We need to also think something beyond that. We also need to make the business run, the business that's paying our salary. So we cannot do too much where then it affects the process, profit. So what we need to do is that we need to do the risk reduction in a continuous step down level. And this is a continuous process that goes on and on and on. So what is very key here is actually this one, the effectiveness check. And this question is something we always need to ask. And from my experience, what I've seen is most of the HIRARC template doesn't ask this question. It doesn't. Is it allowed or not? Then where do you record that I think this is allowed? So include this into your templates. I know some of you use company-driven templates. If they are web-based, it's a bit difficult to do this, but you need to record somewhere. You can, export it to Excel and then keep it as a record or something like that. But it is a key thing that you need to ask in your HIRARC document. Is this allowed? It can be read and still allowed. Because why? You look at red. Anybody put here their confined space entry is green. I have seen. Oh, I have all this control in, so now my risk is green, low. if anyone comes to me and say that they're confined space entry, which is highly administrative control, and then you tell me it's green, I wouldn't agree. Because it is still highly administrative. You cannot bring it down to green. So, but I can always say this, is it as low as reasonably practicable? Yes. So it can remain red, it can remain amber, but don't bring it down to green. That is false sense of safety. So I would like to run through the next one, which is a template. I'm not recommending this template. What I want to do is actually show these portions that I discussed. Now I can share this file. Oh, but I can share my screen. Okay, that's my screen. So what I wanted to share is actually, this is Excel, very old school. So what I wanted to share for those of us who are still using Excel, get hold of someone who is very good in IT and very good in Excel sheet. Do this. Hold on, So, okay, do this. Because this is non-linear. If it's non-linear, please do this. If you do not have this, please do it, right? So they have ways to do this formula. That is one. So make your life easier. If you're doing Excel, try to get hold of someone and get all the formulas in as much as possible. But what I wanted to show actually is this one. A residual risk assessment, meaning to say, once you've done the green portion, which you've done your risk control, you've done your recommended risk control, then once this control has been implemented, you come back and you review and you say, this is my residual risk after I have implemented this control measure. And then I review the effectiveness and I say whether this is effective or not. Has it reduced the risk or not? And then I put in a date of the next review. This is all automated. When you select things here, it'll come. The date will come automatically. Because high risk, you review at different dates. Low risk, you review at different dates. And then you can put, and I think in the current new by Dosh, this is called justification. So what is your justification? So I just wanted to share that we don't have this portion. We don't have this alarm. So it'll be good to have this so that in your document, everything explains. And there's another one that I also have included saying that, is this a legal requirement? Is there a prescriptive legal requirement for this? Because anything legal gets high priority if you don't comply. So I just wanted to give a small sharing on this one. And let's go back to our slide. Starting all over again. Oh, I can resume. There you go. Okay. So let's move on to the next one, job safety analysis. Now, this is where we actually get people who are doing the job to do it. Don't do this for people. We need to train people to do this for themselves. So risk assessment for a specific job. And what is the purpose? It is meant as a communication tool to the workers. It is not management. So you don't tell them, not high noise risk assessment. Don't use a lot of technical jargons because this is a communication tool to the workers. And when do you use this? You use this to ascertain risk at task level. And it is your reference document for toolbox. Not baca ini JSA, lepas tu sign kat bawah. I tell you, those people are doing the work there. If they like to read, dia suka baca, dia akan buat kita punya kerja tau. Dia buat kerja tu sebab dia tak suka baca. And it's a very unfair work that is not designed for people who are not academic. But if he is academic enough, he'll be sitting in our seats, right? So think about it. It is to ascertain risk at task level, and it is a reference document for toolbox. When do you not use job safety analysis? When the job is complex, then we shift to method statement. And when the job is technical, you also need to use it as a method statement. So method statement don't talk about the hazards. It doesn't talk about the risk. It's just tell step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is how I'm going to do it. This is the sequence of my work because this is the only way to do it safely. That is something that we need to start thinking about. So method statement doesn't have a lot of risk assessment in it. It is a confirmed way to do things safely. So for this job, this is all the steps. And if I follow these steps according to the sequence, the job will be done safely. So when it's complex, when it's technical, move to method statement. JSA is for specific task, very simple. Last time I gave a guideline and my maintenance team got pissed off with me, but I said, if it's more than steps, don't use JSA anymore. Because we don't want a 3-page JSA. We don't want a 10-page JSA on this one, right? And we like to do this. We make the JSA complex by using technical jargon. We say job steps, hazards, control measure. We are safety people. I tell you, your people in HR and finance itself do not understand what we are meaning by this. And when the moment they read this, for those who read, they don't want to read this anymore. It becomes a document I don't want to talk about because this is something foreign, something I don't understand. And then on top of it, we have some people who do this. They have risk assessment in their job safety analysis, right? They have this. This is not a place to put risk assessment. Remember, risk assessment, risk matrix are at business level, are at management level. We use it to make management decision. Job safety analysis is very simple. So you want to use in layman terms, you want people to understand, then you shift. You ask this question, what am I going to do? So these are all the things you're going to do today. And it makes toolbox very easy. Then you tell, okay, today when you do all this, what can go wrong? Naik lagi atas, tak pakai harness. That are the things can go wrong. But why do you need to wear harness? Kalau jatuh, tak mati. It's very simple. So we say, what am I going to do? What can go wrong? And then, how do I do it safely? That's all should be inside the JSA. And the JSA can say this. JSA format is not mandated anywhere. Never mandated anywhere. The gist is the JSA format. So you can change your JSA format to be very, very layman. And remember, people who work, people who are hands-on, they don't like to read. So kita bukan main dengan puisinya lah, berpanjang-panjang tulis SOP. It's no point because the JSA is intended for the people who are working. So we must create a document that works for them. Because this is a communication tool, I'm going to use this to communicate to my workers. So my communication mode, method, material must be working for them. Okay? Okay, we'll get back to that question. Okay. So what some of the changes we have done to the JSAs, if you can see, we do it as a checkbox concept. So when we talk about chemicals, we say, okay, what are the hazards? We don't put carcinogenic, tetraodogenic. I've seen all these inside JSAs. We just say that it's harmful to your health through respiration, through skin contact. So respiration, wear respirators, skin contact, wear these gloves. Very simple. Can be in point form, don't even have to be a sentence. And then we put that checkbox there, so you check, 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 and this is the PPE, check, 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 and you mention the PPE. So if you say respirator, then you mention the cartridge number so that they don't get the wrong cartridge. And there is one more portion in the JSA we added, which is what is my summary points when I want to give a toolbox. because I cannot read the entire JSA to them. So this is the summary point. So if I'm giving a toolbox talk, I go to the summary page and these are the points I'm going to touch. So it's easy for you to talk. So remember, it's something they need to retain. So it has to be very, very simple, not complex. I hope I have you up to now because I see it's a little bit quiet. Now the next one is safe work permit. Yeah. Now, what is a safe work permit? Safe work permit is a risk assessment tool, but it is an agreement on how non-routine tasks are performed. Because it's non-routine or it is done in a new area, that this work is in a non-routine area that you don't access every day, you need to have an agreement how this is going to be done safely. And again, it is a communication tool, which means it's a communication between the issuer and the holder, saying that it's a record of communication, it's a record of agreement that, okay, all these are the hazards that recognize today based on your task and how the task is interacting with the environment. And this is how we are going to do the work. These are all the controls I'm going to put in. So it's between the issuer and the holder. It's a record. Then, when do you use it? For non-routine jobs. Who here issue like 100 permits, 200 over permits a month? If you're doing that, means you've got so many non-routine work that is happening. That's a very unsafe plant. Plants on a normal day should operate with normal operation. Where permits come in, they are non-routine, so they are abnormal, not emergency, abnormal, or they are non-routine, which means they don't recur every time. Not last week buat kerja tu, minggu ni pun buat kerja tu, minggu depan pun buat kerja, setiap kerja we issue permit. That's not it. But there are certain tasks, even if it's routine, you need to issue permit. So these are what you call high-risk tasks, working at height, confined space. You're working with hazardous materials. You are, there's one more, high-pressure water jetting, for example. So these are high-risk. Whether it's routine, not routine, there must be a permit there because you really need to do an in-situ risk assessment on that day. SOP all cannot rely, memory all cannot rely. You have to rely on today, I have to assess the work. So these are the two areas you use the safe work permit. So tak payahlah berlambat nanti buat safe work permit, then kita kena buat safe work permit audit pula, then it adds a lot of work. And when you don't use it, when it's a continued prolonged work, so or you use it in place of an SOP. So write an SOP, train and qualify the competent person to do the work, and then let them do something we call dynamic risk assessment. How many of us have chargemen and then ask the chargeman for low voltage? I'm not talking about high voltage. Also need to apply permit. A chargeman who's doing his own job don't need to apply permit. But if it is live electrical work, you need to, because it's high risk. But for a chargeman to do his work, he should have an SOP. He should be trained on that SOP and follow the SOP and do work. It is just like your driving license concept. You go, you learn driving, you're given a license, and then nobody asks you to issue permit every time you take up the car. You are entrusted that you have been trained and qualified to drive. So we must start thinking from that as well. Not everything needs permit. There could and would be items or jobs that are actually fine with dynamic risk assessment. No need to issue permit. So this will lessen your work. Yes, I agree with me. Many of us implement permit to work for routine works. And this is where you can make your work more efficient. The more permits you have, the more documents you need to prepare, the more permit issuers you need to prepare, The more audits you need to do, filing cabinet nanti berlambat-lambat sebab tak cukup. So think about all those things and how much you can release yourself and release people from doing documentation. So that dynamic risk assessment is something you can explore on how you can confident. Sebenarnya kita ni takut tahu, when you remove the safe work permit kan, kata tak ada control. No. We must be confident in our systems. We must also trust the competency of our people to do the work. And if it's not competent, my rule is get out. Don't do the job if you cannot do it safely. You must be competent enough to do it. So that is on safe work permit. Now, things you can do to improve your permit. You can change your permit form. Permit form, you can change it. Your company don't allow to change it, fight for it. I would say that this permit that I'm showing you right now, this one we fought. We fought for 6 months with global safety and get it done. Because we say what you have, your template does not work. This is the template. I can reduce all my safe work permit findings. And I reduced by 12% within the first 6 months by implementing this one. So at the end, when you fight, you also need to collect all your numbers and proof it point. Right? So we had a lot of non-compliances in permit. So we changed the permit form, how it looks like, based on what were the findings. Why are people making these mistakes? Why are these things not identified? Why are these hazards not identified? So we asked this question and said, okay, so this is the solution. So what you can do, number one is, if you keep on issuing multiple permit, general safe work permit, working at height permit, confined space permit, or hot work, for example, confined space, please do it separately. Hot work, selalu 3 ni, dia datang sekali. So if your company, these 3 is so common and together, combine 3 into 1 permit. You can do that. Nobody says you cannot. Tapi kita rasa macam, tak boleh sebab kita so biasa with what the world is doing. So challenge that. So when you combine, I'm no more issuing 1 permit. At 3 permits, I'm issuing only 1. So I already reduced this by 60%. 60% is a lot of work, a lot of paper, and a lot of trees saved, I would say. Right? So combine this as, I think dia kecil sangat tu. What I have done is, we combine the hot work and the working at height all into 1 permit, together with the safe work permit, together with the general permit. So it's 1 whole A3 paper. And then the other one that you can do is use checkbox instead of writing. Sudahlah tulisan tangan tu tak boleh nak baca. Lepas tu, there's a lot of documentation error because of handwriting. So you say, tak payah tulis, lepas tu when you write, you ambil masa. And then we found something very interesting. Suruh dia orang tuliskan, you know what they do? Dia pergi cari permit lama, lepas tu dia duduk, dia copy. So when you copy, you are not doing risk assessment. Lepas tu dia sign, dia issue. So then, it's not working to its intended purpose. So we say, no, everything has to be filled up. So when you do checkbox, they have to think. So dia tak boleh tick, 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 tick. Another thing is, this is a bit of a human brain. If you can see the design that we have, dia tak selalunya straight. You see the checkbox, dia sekejap kat sini, sekejap kat sini, dia sekejap kat sini, sekejap kat sini. Why we do that? Supaya dia tak duduk, because that's the danger of checkbox. They keep on ticking as they like. Lepas tu tak juga buat risk assessment.
Sharmini, boleh interject sikit lah, Sharmini.
Boleh.
Apa khabar you?
I'm fine.
Zulkarnain, Sharmini. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, you asyik mengayau aja mana-mana company lompat sana lompat sini. Okay, quick one, Sharmini. Yeah, I have pro and con with your whatever you have said. Accordingly to my normal practice, especially in oil and gas lah. I think you have a very good idea. Tapi ada benda-benda yang saya a bit against lah. For example, you ask, For example, like you are saying kata you can combine. Be careful on that. Be careful on that. Yes, my permit dulu punya dulu, it come with the what you have said. Is separately, scaffolding separate, confined space separate, hot work separate, macam tu. So end up it become quite administrative. What you say lah. I mean, become apa ni, banyak sangat permit. So yes, Ken, I agree with you that some of the work can be you can be 2 in 1, 3 in 1 in the permit. Whatever you not apply, you just write on the column that per se talking about that. Let's say you are talking about scaffolding, you talk about scaffolding, you talk about. But be careful on combining this what call this hazard. I give you simple example. Like my permit to work, if I take what do you call confined space, I think I very agree with you with the concept. You have give a very good concept on putting down the alap from the red become yellow and become green. I totally agree with you, whereby sometimes when the people you are using the new HIRARC from the residual risk, inherent risk to residual risk, sometimes they tend to from red can become green, but I totally disagree lah.
Yeah.
Where there are work that, for example, like confined space, you can bring down from the red to green, cannot, because that is very hazardous. Hazardous. So to make it quick, I don't want to disturb your stage. My something that I want to interject is actually be careful on lumping all the work in one permit. There are permit, there are job, the critical job you cannot lump to anywhere. I give you simple example, confined space. It should be separately and should be focused on the confined space. That is my view. Yeah, carry on. Very good.
That I agree. So you see, when we do this, we need to do a judgment call as well, right? So I agree with Engineer, there are permits we don't want to combine. One is confined space. The other one will be roof access. This is another one that you may not want to combine. The other one would be high voltage or live electrical work. Because why? Why I say these three? Because these three requires specific competency. That means everyone involved need to be competent. So you cannot combine these things, because sometimes the general work permit is got a lot of stages, right, in the whole day. So when they want to go into a confined space, then they need to issue a separate confined space permit. And when they want to access the roof during the job, they need to, before going on the roof, this is my general work permit. In addition, I do a roof access permit. Who makes that decision? It is the site safety and health manager. The site safety manager should make this decision. What is my risk? Can my people manage a combined one? Which combined is good? Which should I take up? So this is something that need to be reviewed. So that is why you see in this A3 permit, confined space is not something we included, because that one got a lot of things. I have to do gas test, then I get gas test report, so many things, right? So I agree with Encezul on that one. So make a judgment call. The other one is...
Ada ngapi kuku dok?
Mute yourself.
Oh, nah.
Someone is speaking. Yeah, okay. So then I prefer the checkbox method. I have already talked about it, but design it properly so that it works. And the other one is safety signage and pictograms instead of words. So just now for JSA, I forgot to mention something. Someone, when I was giving the JSA training, he asked me this question. Can I not write and put pictures? So I actually show step 1, this is the picture. Step 2, this is the picture. This is how you wear a PPE. I letak gambar. You must be like this before you start this work. I said by all means. It doesn't mean that I need to write. Do what works for the people who is going to do the work. That's very, very important. And we had it. We had one JSA that's all picture, because why? You know why it's very important? the person that's doing the work don't know how to read and write. So I have to show pictures, which is a very interesting concept, right? And the last one is group hazards together. So if you see this design that is there, so we have combined, these are all the physical hazards that are there. These are all the, I can't remember what it is. So these are all the chemical hazards that are there. So you can combine hazards. We also have one section in this permit, which is ergonomic hazards as well. So it actually tells ergonomic hazards, you actually only got 6. We tend to campur aduk, so bila belajar tu, ergonomic hazards is only 6. So you put the 6 in one line, ask them to tick which ergonomic hazard they have for this job. And then under that, these are the controls, because the controls are very, very standard, because that is your SOP for your company. If this hazard exists, this is my control. It doesn't vary. So you can put all this in so that people just need to think, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this. That's all. That is what a permit is. A permit is a reminder that, okay, this is the hazard, this is the available control measures. Is this enough? Okay, that's it. It's an agreement to do the work. So I hope this is the end of that sharing of all those things that I have learned over the years, challenged by many. I have people who've thrown tantrums in my office as well when it comes to permit, and this is what we have come up with, and this is what we have done to reduce or to improve the efficiency of the risk assessment process, right? So this slide, I have this question, and this is very, very common. My question is, why do we need 3 copies? We are so want to Bual carbon copies, and then we have this permit book, and that is cost as well. But nobody has challenged this, and whenever I ask, nobody has an answer. A credible answer based on the value of this. So I'm spending this much money. I'm management, so I always ask this question. I'm spending this much money. I'm spending this much storage space. And then on top of it, every year when I need to throw some of it, I cannot just simply throw into the dustbin because they're carbon, so I cannot recycle them. So when I ask, okay, so there's so much work involved, administrative work, cost, filing, so this is real estate as well. So what is the value of having 3 copies of a permit to work, which has a record retention of 1 year, and nobody can answer this? You know, what is a common answer I get? Oh, kalau yang original hilang, I ada record. That's all. That is a very common answer, and I ask, berapa kali permit pernah hilang? How many times your permit was lost that you had to take the carbon copy and put it into your record file within the 12 months? Because your permit record retention is only 1 year. So in the 12 months, how many times your permits was lost? The answer is usually 0.
Saya
So-
interject sikit boleh?
Boleh, Cik Zul.
Sharmini,
Ah.
yeah, I also in a way agree with you with 3 copy. Kalau saya nak kata more appropriate, sebenarnya 2 kopi tu okey. Sebenarnya macam ni, 1 kopi mesti ada dekat site. 1 kopi mesti ada siapa yang sign dia punya original dia. Macam ni, mungkin Sharmini mungkin belum ada experience ke apa yang berlaku dekat site, takut kenapa kontraktor ni takut dikuatiri mungkin dia modify ada yang original. Jadi kita tak ada apa-apa reference tau. Jadi pada saya 2 mencukupi kerana kita takut benda tu telah divandalizekan. Nak Syamini lebih-lebih lagi kalau ada kemalangan. Itu kita takut. Bila ada kemalangan, dia cepat-cepat conteng sana, conteng sini. Oh, fire extinguisher no need. Oh, fire ini tak perlu, ini tak perlu. Itu yang saya nampak Syamini.
Okay. So if fraud is the question, right? Which again, so my question is always this: that the effort that we put in, right? Effort and resources that we put in should also the weightage on the problem that is solving, it should balance. Sometimes we put in too much effort for something that is very rare or highly unlikely to happen. But of course, if it's legal issue and then they keep on amending the permits, this and that. So if that is the reason, my question is, people actually don't know the reason why we need 3 copies. You go and ask how many people who can actually answer why we need 3 copies. We just follow blindly. We need to start asking. And if this is the reason, fraud, for example, which is they can do, and if you're saying that permits get lost, is this the right way? Because there are many ways out there now.
Satu
This
lagi
could
data
have
saya,
been the right
satu lagi
ways yeah.
satu lagi data saya nak beritahu, dalam law memang ada cakap 1 year, but don't forget that is only specifically on confined space. So tiada apa-apa regulation, tiada apa-apa dalam mana-mana bercakap you kena simpan selama 1 tahun. 1 tahun hanya ada bercerita dalam ICOP. Jadi dia terpulang kepada you punya in-house punya prosedur. I buat 3 bulan je.
Yes.
Lepas 3 bulan, I buat
Actually, so,
boleh buat nasi
yeah,
lemak
so
punya bungkus. No problem. Yeah.
no, what I'm trying to say is, if from my experience, if you go to the companies and you review their record retention, okay, this is from my experience of auditing many companies, it's always 1 year. It is kind of, because we are in an environment in Malaysia, most of the companies are not local, they are MNCs, and then the local
Kalau
companies
1 year,
yeah.
kalau 1 year, pastikan dia masuk dalam in-house procedure. My
Yes,
in-house
in-house
procedure only
procedure.
3 bulan. Only 3 bulan. Lepas tu boleh
You
buat
see?
bungkus. Boleh buat bungkus nasi
Yeah.
lemak.
So it's
Pasal apa?
even less. It's
Pasal
even less. 3 months.
dalam law tak ada cakap. Dalam law hanya cakap dalam ICOP, confined space mesti
Correct.
1 year.
Yeah. So I'm giving an example. Usually, this is very common. If you check your record retention policies for permit to work, right? Record retention policy for permit to work, you'll find it 1 year. That's a usual. That's very common. If some companies say 3 months, that's even less. Then a lot of work for these 3 months record. And I like that comment that people say that I need 1 copy for the contractor, I need 1 copy for the principal, I need 1 copy for the authority. The question that I have is, it's okay to have 10 copies also, but we must know the reason why we are having this. Don't do things blindly. So in most cases, we don't know the reason, we just blindly follow this procedure because it has been there for years. Probably a procedure that only was there in 1970s. With the resources or with the technology that was available then. But by all means, you make that decision. But what I'm asking is, challenge these procedures. Get to know the reasons they are there. Why do you need 3 copies? Ask this question. Why? Some people say, why do I need to display it in the workplace? Why does it need to be displayed? You need to be able to answer this. You need to know your company's safe work procedures, and you need to be able to answer these questions. If you cannot answer, go and find out the answer, and probably there is no answer, then you can even reduce your work further. That is what I'm challenging. I'm not saying don't have 3 copies, right? So these are things that, from my experience, that I have seen that we just sometimes blindly follow without questioning. Yeah. Okay. Yes, correct. In law, they will always use the word risk assessment. What type of risk assessment you do is your own business. And if you can justify, please justify. So that is why for routine jobs, we don't want to issue safe work permit, but we issue SOPs. Confined space is different. Confined space, there is an ICOP that covers it. The ICOP say must issue permit. So this is where we need to make our judgment call. Okay, right now. So berbincang sikit So these are, I mean, this is a question and Q&A already. It's time to berbincang. All right. So what are some of the issues you have faced with permit to work? And what are some of the frustrations you have experienced? So we can, ask these questions and we can start discussing from this angle.
Siapa-siapa nak bagi info ke feedback ke nak tanya apa-apa, boleh terus buka mic ya. Boleh terus buka mic. Kita ni unofficial session. Siapa-siapa nak bincang boleh terus buka mic and then tanyalah apa you nak tanya atau you nak share your own experience. Boleh juga.
Saya nak tambah sikit lah Zena. Tambah sikit pasal Sharmini cakap pasal tick box tu. Sebenarnya ialah ada advantage, ada disadvantage. Kalau you letak tick box, memang betul memudahkan. Tetapi dia akan ada satu benda yang tak bagus. Bisa tick box ni kita panggil macam tick box punya ni lah, punya syndrome lah.
Mentality, the checkbox
Mentality. Ada checkbox. Macam kita cakap pasal apa, pensel, orang putih cakap pensel apa lupa nama dia. Memang dia tick. Kadang-kadang Saturday pun tak ada apa-apa, dia tick sana, tick sini. So tu jadi tick box tu. Tapi kalau saya Sharmini, saya buat dua-dua. Saya buat benda yang patutnya kena tick, memang saya tick. Tapi ada juga ada satu saya kena buat wording, whereby benda-benda yang sepatutnya kita tambah extra information, kita taruh word. So semualah word. Macam tu lah. Itu saya
It's
tambah.
always a combination. It's never one is. Okay, so there is a question there. What is your opinion on no permit to work request for low risk work, not required to deal with SHO? Okay. Not required. Kenapa pula permit to work ada kena deal dengan SHO pula? Okay, question. First question, what is your opinion on no permit to work request for low risk work? Yeah, why not? You can make a decision. Most of the time, people say work on ladder, right? And this is very common. Work on ladder under 30 minutes, which is light work. That means you bukan berdiri atas ladder, lepas tu kau nak drill hole sini, drill hole sana, that's a different story, right? So work on ladder doing light work. For example, I'm stepping on a ladder, I want to change a light bulb. Do you know I used to work for a company that needs me to issue safe work permit for this job? I went in, I said, no. This is all non-value added work. So if it's low risk, you actually don't need permit. But you need to decide. These are all the list of work or the type of work that is permit exempted, documented. Documented based on your risk assessment. So this is the connection you need to build in. Tapi I tak faham soalan yang not required to deal with SHO ni.
SHO biasanya Alif, SHO jangan libatkan dia. SHO ni dia adalah compliant. So dia tengok sama ada permit to work tu ada ke tak ada. So janganlah you biasakan permit to work tu signed by SHO. So SHO boleh.
Jangan.
Ada masanya. Jangan.
Okay, so this one, okay. Remember, permit to work is a risk assessment document. Risk assessment is required by law, which means it technically makes it a legal document. Right? So apa jadi is safety tak boleh issue permit. I know it happens everywhere. It's happening in my current company too. I need to change it, right? The thing is safety tak boleh issue permit because why? We are the system manager. Kita jaga system. So bila kita jaga system, one of our responsibility is to do the check and balance. We are checking and ensuring, we are auditing, inspecting, blah blah blah, to ensure that the system is running effectively. Lepas tu kita pula duduk sign, lepas tu kita check kerja sendiri. So that what will happen is, when you get involved in that process, it becomes a conflict of interest.
Betul
Then
sekali,
you will
betul.
start implementing things untuk memudahkan kerja you. Because now you also find, okay lah, ini sudah tak payah. Then tiba-tiba you start doing things that becomes unethical. Ada someone
Satu
with...
lagi saya nak tambah Sharmini, dia cakap low tu sebenarnya macam gini. You dalam tempat-tempat kerja you ada low, ada medium, ada high. Yang pastinya you kena letakkan dalam you punya written procedure you, in-house procedure, which one is low, which one is medium, which one. So tak adalah isu kata oh low tak ada permit ke macam mana ni. Macam tu. So you punya procedure, in-house procedure tu, you listkan mana satu low. Kadang-kadang bukan sahaja kerana risk tau. Dia kerana location juga. For example, dia low instrumentation je tapi dia buat dekat production tau. Production ni orang punya tanah, tuan tanah Kedaung tu you kena minta kebenaran dengan dia. Macam mungkin dia ada aktiviti lain ke apa kan. So walaupun low, kadang-kadang kita perlu permit to work juga pasal dia bekerja di tempat orang lain. Jadi nasihat saya senaraikan mana satu law tu masuk dalam prosedur.
Yes. The thing is, it can be a low risk work in a high risk environment, and then it becomes high risk. Dia bukan low risk already. That's number one. Kena fikir low risk work in high risk environment is a high risk work, and permit to work is a documentation. Sometimes kita just kena bincang in. Remember, we have shift handovers. We got morning briefings. So you need to know in your area what are the works that's going to happen today. So you can ask also permission during the shift handover. I'm a person who don't like documentation, so I'll be against documentation most of the time. So bila mana-mana boleh reduce documentation, I'll try to reduce. So remember, it's a collaborative work. We talk to each other and we work with each other. So where it's really required, please do not remove the permit to work. But where you think that this is a manageable risk through communication and discussion, should be done. Now, I have this person who was saying that he is very frustrated with his management, right? When you hire contractor, you get the lousy ones, the incompetent ones, the one that don't know what is JSA. The contractor management company don't know what is JSA, right? And then they'll come, half of the law they don't follow. Half of the safety requirement don't follow. They come in, they bring in their tools, the tools are in horrible conditions, right? And management is hiring. Now, the issue is common. Everywhere I work, I also have this problem. How do you deal with this problem is something very difficult to do. It's for us to have a courage and not inform, but put your foot down. So you have to shift and become a gangster. So what do I do? This is my experience. I'm not recommending that you do it, but this is how I have managed it because I feel that this is the only way it works. I go, I stop work. I just stop work, I call, correcting. I go in again, not say stop work again. But it may not work in construction because you've got timelines to deliver and things like that. But in manufacturing, what I do is I just stop work. I have went into a job, confiscated their entire electrical sockets. Semua socket, I ambil, I letak dalam satu trolley, I bawa. And now you do work lah. So the contractor will come, I say, all this is unsafe. No management can argue with you that that is safe. Any management want to come and argue with me and say that is not safe, I will tell, you approve, you sign, I release. So sometimes, but you need to have the courage to do so. And you need to know in which environment or which type of company you're working for, whether this works, right? Otherwise, you need to find a better way. At the permit issuance place, you ensure everything is in place before you start. There was one time I said that if this is the contractor, I want to verify before they start work. So I go in and I don't do it every single time. I do random. And I say, okay, tak boleh. You pergi kedai sekarang, beli ni. Baru boleh start. I don't give you permission. So it's a little bit of courage. It's a little bit of high tense environment because your management is not that responsible because they select contractor based on cost. So another change that I have done is I get involved in the contractor selection process. So if safety doesn't say okay for the contractor, you cannot register the vendor. I talked to procurement, I said, I want this in the procedure. So there are many ways to do it, but all the ways is very high tense and very conflict resolution, spicy environment. Okay, if they say safety is second priority, my dear, there's nothing you can do. You only got option E, exit. There's no way you can work. This is reality of working in the safety environment. It's exit. There's no way you can implement safety in a company like that. Technically, they don't even need a safety personnel. Unfortunately, that's the reality and that's the truth. There's no workaround this because there's only so much you can influence the management. And I'm quite sad to give you that answer anyway. Any others? Any other discussion? Zena, just on time, are we okay?
Now what time? Wait, okay. Oh, 10:20, okay. Ada siapa lagi ada soalan ke? Nak tanya apa-apa ke? Boleh letak.
Saya Amran dari Pulau Pinang. Boleh saya involve dalam satu pertanyaan barangkali?
Tanya saja. Tanya.
No need permission.
Okay, saya nak come back to the basic lah. Mungkin tak ada mungkin ada related ataupun ada sikit related. Sebab saya seorang trainer yang kerdil lah di Pulau Pinang. Okay. Apa yang saya facing sekarang ada 2-3 perkara dan mungkin saya akan share sedikit saja. So kita sekarang kita bercakap soal common tools. Okay, in the risk assessment. Banyak lah kan, banyak yang kita sembang hari ni. Kita tengok hari ni banyak tentang apa nama? PHA lah kan. HIRARC lah, CWOC permit lah, HZOP lah, GSA lah, FMEA lah, banyak kita sembang kan, betul tak?
Yes.
So boleh tak kita share ataupun Miss sendiri, could you explain the proper sequence between GSA, all that yang kita discuss tadi tu, which one come first? Ataupun kita nak skip semua all these the common use, we use HIRARC only. Apa pendapat Puan?
Okay, so kita ada in a company there is different levels of risk assessment. So at the very top, very high level, we call it enterprise risk assessment. So enterprise risk management. So enterprise risk management is the company will have all the functions. So under occupational safety and health, what are my high level risks? So my high level risk will be definitely LTIs, right? So injuries, fatality, and permanent disability. So be very high level, right? And then under environment, I would have this. Then under finance, this is my risk. Under property, this is my risk. So they would have go by function. Then from there, you will cascade it down. So under occupational safety and health, they will put what is the control measure. So at a high level, enterprise risk level, they will say my controls are safety management systems, right? And then they will say my controls are risk assessments. These are the two controls they put there. And then we take, so remember that the control the enterprise or the company has decided is a safety management system and risk assessments. Site-specific risk assessment, they put it there. So I take these two controls as a site, then I set up a safety management system, PDCA, and then I do my risk assessment. So then I need to do one very high level for my site, and that is where the HIRARC comes in. Remember HIRARC, and if you are involved in process safety, then you have to do PSF, which is Zol's favorite topic, right? Process safety risk assessments. Dalam tu ada macam-macam juga, right? So you need to identify what do you have. So HIRARC is for occupational safety and health, OSH. Process safety management has its own risk assessment tools. So you have these two now. Then you take this, and now we have well-being risk assessment also. Oh, that's a new one. So then you take these three. Then this is also at company level, at your site level, at your management's level. And then in that, you will say that, okay, for confined space entry, what is the consequence? Fatality. You can never run away from that. And this is a high risk activity. So when this is a high risk activity, what are my control measures? Permits, competent person, sign off by probably one of your management. Most companies will have that. Confined space, you cannot do unless management acknowledge and sign off in the permit. There are companies like that. So this is my 3 control measures in my HIRARC. Permit, competent person, and sign off by top management. Then permit, then it comes to permit. In order for me to do permit, I need supporting documents. So my supporting documents for my permit, because permit is on that day, it is a combination of the work and the environment, and I do a risk assessment. That is where I do my permit. So in order for me to do this combination, environment, I boleh nampak ya, but the work, I need a reference document. So that reference document is an input to my permit system, which can be a JSA or can be a method statement, depending on the complexity of the job. So before I issue a permit, this becomes a prerequisite, the JSA. I prepare a JSA for the job. Then I bring that job risk assessment and I look at the environment. I put the permit on top of the JSA. Don't repeat things that is already in the JSA. Don't do that. So I take it put the permit on top of the JSA and say, these are all the additional controls or additional risk because of the interaction with the environment. And this is how you control it for that day, for that. That's why permit to work is not more than 24 hours. It's for that day. So dia cascade dari atas sampai bawah. So that is how the whole system works, right? So there was a question just now. PTW endorsement by who here? Okay, permit to work. There are a few people in the system, and this is quite common. Then they say depends on the company who But in the system itself, we have permit issuer, permit holder, and we also have some people we call SME because they are the subject matter experts. Sometimes permit issuer is not really expert on the subject. So he can call a subject matter expert to sign off certain areas, right? So these are the 3 people that sign it off. Sebab between the issuer and the holder are the people that have an agreement. So dia lah kena sign off. Some companies will say for this one all, additionally, these people all must sign. If it's electrical work, the electrical engineer must sign, whether it's the issuer or the holder, or some people say acceptor, depending on the company, right? So you have permit acceptor and permit issuer. These are the 2 main people. You can call in additional people depending on the permit and depending on the expertise of the permit issuer. And some people, the area owner is the permit issuer. Tapi area owner tak tahu apa-apa pun pasal that job. Then how? That becomes dangerous. So we need to think about the competency of the person who's signing off. But these are the 2 people that signs off, the issuer and the acceptor. That's how the system works. Who the issuer is, who should be the acceptor is determined by the company based on the work and the competency. And that is the system. Bukan kata area owner is the permit issuer. You tak boleh cakap macam tu. To issue a confined space permit, you must be trained in AGTES. Trained je, tak payah pass. Trained in AGTES, that doesn't expire. Tapi we always send these people for refresher anyway. So kita kena tahu what are the competencies of the permit issuer as well. So
Lepas tu
those are
kalau kalau saya bagi satu contoh, kerja dia adalah lifting. You perlukan probably 2 crane, 2 crane. So betul lah Sharmini kata, takkanlah owner yang bagi tunjuk ajar macam mana crane dipakai. You mesti ada subject matter expert. Kalau tempat saya, dia adalah under engineering group. So engineering group ni dia kena sign. So kalau saya kata, kalau bahagian saya, owner atau saya selalu panggil tuan tanah Kedaung, dia orang yang last kali sign. Pasal
Yep.
apa? Bila dia last kali sign, dia tengok ini kerja apa? Kerja engineering. Crane dah ditengok oleh seseorang yang kompeten. Jadi macam tu. Dia mesti ada owner, dia mesti ada holder, dia mesti ada engineering perspektif. Dia baru complete dia punya permit. Tapi cuma saya nak tambah lagi tadi satu soalan daripada tuan mana tadi yang kata macam mana nak mana satu dulu, JSA dulu, permit to work dulu. Saya nasihatkan kamu kena ada permit to work. Kamu kena ada permit to work roadmap. Roadmap kena ada. Apa? Nak mula pada apa? Macam saya, mula daripada work request. Ada somebody request, tak kisahlah instrumen ke, mekanik ke, dia request. So, bila dia request, then you tengok, bila kerja tu bahaya ke, low ke, medium ke, high. Apa yang perlu? Then, buatkan roadmap dia. Oh, perlu permit to work. Oh, perlu JSA. Oh, perlu toolbox. Oh, perlu tengok, perlu ODR. Tu, roadmap tu mesti ada. So, dalam company kamu kena ada roadmap. Baru kamu boleh nampak apa nak kena buat, nak ada permit ke, nak ada JSA ke atau tak ada. Itu je yang saya nak tambah.
Correct. Okay. We are nearing time. Dah time pun. Okay. So basically so if I want to end, this is my conclusion. First of all, we need to use the right tool. So select the right tool for the purpose. Select the right risk assessment tool for the purpose. And then make it simple. Make the format simple and easy to fill. The more administrative it gets, the more non-compliances you'll find and the more nonsense you'll find inside as well. So make the format simple, easy to fill, and people feel liked. So always involve the people in the design. Kita jangan pada-pada design. We can show the concept and then ask opinion, design together. And use very, very layman term. Don't use technical jargon. Nanti orang tak faham. And this can be argued in court. Because a person can go up there, dia suruh saya sign, tapi saya tak faham. So saya sign lah. Sebab saya tak faham apa saya baca. So that's your whole system fails. So make it layman so that there is no argument later that I don't understand what I read or I don't understand what I saw, right? So that will be my conclusion. And thank you so much as well. And yes, siapa-siapa nak apa-apa, the thing is, all these are company confidential documents. So I have to be very careful what I share, what I don't share. I can show you some samples as well. So that's my number, that's my email, and that's my LinkedIn. So connect whichever comfortable to you. And kita boleh berbincang tepi side chat rather than here.
Yeah, betul. That's why I say you PM, PM. PM tepi. So hari
PM
ni
tepi, yes.
malam ni kita terima kasih banyak-banyaklah kepada Miss Sharmini sebab dia punya experience memang banyak. Experience banyak means cerita pun banyak. That's why apa yang you tanya tadi, she will be able to answer you lah because of her experience and she pernah deal with all sort of people lah sebab dah banyak tahun kan di industri. So thank you so much for spending time with us. Siapa-siapa ada apa-apa sekarang you screenshot ini, you dapatlah dia punya contact, LinkedIn page semua. Nanti you boleh PM tepi dengan Sharmini lah. Okay? Terima kasih semua orang. Terima kasih.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Terima kasih kepada Miss Sharmini dan juga Miss Zena sebagai moderator kita. Okey.
Thank you.
Okey, terima kasih sekali lagi. Dan terima kasih juga kepada peserta yang hadir pada malam ni. Almost 60 juga lah peserta yang attend malam ni. Okey, jika tak ada apa lagi, minggu hadapan kita akan bersama dengan Tuan Zain. Dengan tajuk Psychological Safety and Leadership Impact of Employee Wellbeing. Okey, dengan ini saya tutup majlis ni boleh ya?
Boleh.
Okey. Sekali lagi terima kasih juga kepada Puan Sri Sharmini ya. Terima kasih ya.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Selamat malam.
Okey, selamat malam. Assalamualaikum.